Sure. My name is Leo Cheng. I am the project lead at Cream Finance. We do lending. Yeah, I'm here in Taipei.
0xMaki, would you like to go next?
Yeah, Maki, I'm a contributor to SushiSwap, an AMM that is community-led and part of the Yarn ecosystem. I'm based in Ethereum, Japan.
Thank you so much. Marc?
And my name is Marc. I'm the integration lead at Aave, and we also do lendings and all. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because it was wasn't in the right room. So my name is Marc Ziller. I'm the integration lead at Aave, and we are a liquidity protocol on the Ethereum blockchain.
Great. And yeah, I'm Penguin. I'm your host for the day. I participate in a lot of different DeFi protocols. I take a look at the contracts and am active in a bunch of the different communities. I've personally interacted with all of the protocols that we have on today. So I thank you very much, everyone, for participating. So one of the key things that I thought we could start off with is just kind of the idea between like decentralized versus centralized markets, and just kind of talk about where we think that the power is and how each of the different platforms approach that.
Great.
So do you want to kind of switch off with who we go first with? So Leo, you introduced us first, so let's kind of go round robin. So like Maki, you can go first, and then Marc, and then next time Marc will go first. That sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So Maki, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, sure. I think what is the most powerful aspect of DeFi is most likely like the fact that it's permissionless and transparent. There's absolutely no barrier to anyone entering and getting out. So I think this is probably the most interesting aspect of DeFi in my opinion. The fact that everything is accessible and transparent on a public ledger is, to me personally, what is exciting, and the fact that we can pretty much leverage many different money Lego together in composability aspect. So that's pretty much why I'm here building in DeFi today.
Great. Marc, we can't hear you now. You're muted.
Oh, this is
There
weird.
you go.
You guys are using Jitsi, right? I'm
Yeah.
Yes,
using
we are.
that software. So yeah, I completely agree with this. And the synergy are for me, and the composability are for me the most important. Really, in my eyes, there's no SushiSwap user, like Cream user or Aave user. There's just DeFi user, and that's the whole point of what we launched today, the EMM market. So on Aave, you are able to provide liquidity from LP tokens directly into Aave and use that as collateral to borrow funds. That's something you can already do on Cream since quite a while. So we are adding that as well on Aave. And we started with Uniswap and Balancer, but the next wave will have SushiSwap token, SLP tokens. And I really love this idea that you are not locked up in any protocol. You just take the best part of each and every protocol in order to build your own financial freedom.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I think if we also what's separate and different from the previous industries I've been in, I think, is that I mean, maybe part of it has to do with COVID, but I think pre-COVID it was this way, where it's talent from around the world, right? So you're seeing everybody from all corners of the world. I mean, just right here, we all sound a little bit different from each other, and that's great. I'm here in Taipei, like it's like midnight here, and I know that everybody's kind of scattered about, and it's like the ability to basically allow the best of anything to come up. I know that's not very specific to DeFi, but I think it's kind of interesting that our industry is that way. And congratulations on the launch today, by the way, Marc. I think that's fantastic. Like, capital efficiency is awesome. And just today, I was speaking with the journalists about this sort of thing as well. The composability is fantastic. Like, the EVM doesn't care if it travels through, the user travels through with funds travel through Aave and then and Cream and Sushi. Like, it just looks like all the same contracts, right? So the whole thing runs, and we're all just trying to build this thing together, which I think is fantastic. Like, really pushing the edge on this.
Yeah, I think
at
you
the,
guys.
at the end of the day, we just financial middleware, because the end user is just probably going to use a Y-earn Vault to do strategy on autopilot or StakeDAO or Zapper or whatever. At the end of the day, we just protocols, completely neutral, and the user doesn't even have to know that Aave or Cream or SushiSwap exist. They just use something that is good for them.
That's
Yep.
one of the things I've noticed, that even in the DeFi space, it's a little intimidating for people, but there's still like the community and sharing even between protocols. It's a very competitive market and cutthroat market in the corporate world, and very like kill and try to take as much as you can. But it's just not what I've seen even in the money market space. It's very much composability and being able to share ideas and work together towards financial freedom. So I think that financial freedom is really one of the key aspects of DeFi. And have you seen the benefits of DeFi in your community, and how do you think that people are applying your protocol towards like what they're doing? Is it just another part of the puzzle for how people use their funds, or are you seeing that people are approaching you to help leverage their communities?
Yeah, I think I could start with that one. I definitely think that there's a lot of communities working with communities, and I think just even if you went as far as going to Twitter, you could see like sometimes, recently the Phantom community was super excited that they were gonna have the market added on Cream, and sometimes it's like we're also gonna have a call with a different protocol to talk about potentially, is there a way to join their community with ours and then create more synergies that way. So it isn't just on the surface like, okay, look, on these protocols you can deposit money here, you can borrow money there, and then you could potentially margin, but there also is this sort of communities coming together thing, and it's really powerful. And especially too, today, yesterday, this week, the Float protocol is bringing together a bunch of different DeFi protocols by voting into the phase 2. I'm not sure if people here are paying attention to the Float protocol, but that's also pretty interesting too. So I think definitely communities coming together is fantastic, and it's beyond just the surface level what you see of, you could simply do a trade or a supply or a borrow.
Yep, and also in DeFi protocol, in actually decentralized finance protocol, you have this decentralized governance. And when, like, for example, if you own the Sushi asset, you own the SushiSwap protocol, because you can vote directly on the implementation, on this kind of thing. It's the same thing for Cream, the same thing for Aave. And it's very interesting, because when you look at the governance form or the true core and heart of the communities in each protocol, it's quite active. And you have those AIP, SIP, I think Cream, you call that CIP probably. And it's always the same thing. So the communities are asking for an onboarding of a new asset, are asking for a new kind of financial product that can be integrated, all these kind of things. And the community meet there, they discuss about it, they weigh the pros and cons. And what is really interesting will be the merge also of the communities. Like, for example, in the AMM markets, the governance should not only belongs as the main collaterals there are the LP tokens in SushiSwap, Uniswap, Balancer, Curve, all this kind of protocol. It doesn't make sense to me as an individual and as a DeFi participant that only the Aave token holders have a say in that governance of that protocol. So if you have Sushi, you should be able to vote on onboarding SLP token into the Aave market of AMMs. If you have like BAL, you can have your say on Balancer. And I'm really excited to see like mixed governance protocols where users of several communities can vote together on the addition and the amelioration of protocols together.
Some very interesting cross-pollination governance topic that Marc is bringing up here. First time I kind of hear something like this, and I do think that we're probably going to see more and more kind of cross governance partnership of this type happening more in the space, because at the end of the day, it is a meaningful way to bridge communities together in a win-win situation, probably most of the time.
Yeah, I think that really brings up an amazing kind of opportunity that, I haven't seen mentioned either, is that, I've seen kind of all of the communities, they're trying to get support and alignment for different initiatives. If there was kind of the overarching DAO or at least community that helped kind of list or flag things that might help the wider space kind of take notice of important things to act on. Kurt, you look like you want to say something.
No, I was actually thinking too that I think Maki, we were talking about this too within the Yearn ecosystem, and actually that's a probably interesting point to touch on here, is that for a lot of folks that hear about this Yearn merger, that are just like, okay, well, do they actually talk to each other? Do they do anything with each other? And the reality is there is. And on this topic, we have on the last discussion last month when we had our Yearn meeting, we did talk about this, and I think we have a meeting coming up tomorrow, and we're talking more about, just general catch up. But this is one of the things that we've been talking about, is how will there be more cross ecosystem type of governance? And I think it'd be really interesting to watch as how this shapes up within the Yearn ecosystem as well.
One of the things that we've kind of been talking about just in the entire ecosystem is how tokens that we use align us, and like the content of your wallet and like what you're staking says a lot about you. So what are some of the things that you think that we can do with like these snapshot votes? Can we make it so that any of the different tokens can be used or at different weights for snapshots for like
yeah, that's
wider
possible at
voting?
the moment. Just sorry to interrupt. At the moment, for sushi, for example, xSushi are worth half of the voting power of SLP Eat Sushi. So that is a way to kind of showcase the people that have more skin in the game, how we value kind of their voting power. And it would be in theory possible to add more tokens, similar to Marc was saying. I know there's like the cream sushi pair. There's also the AX Sushi that exists, which are both like staked form of asset that are not like used in the governance at the moment. The only problem with Snapshot is if you do want to make modification to it to add new voting and so on, it will nuke the current repo. So you will lose everything that was in there, even though it's cosmetic. You can still go back and see the previous proposal and so on, but it does show it's as if you were restarting the whole snapshot. So it's a little bit annoying, but aside from that, it's totally possible. And I don't know if anyone has seen today, there was the snap safe, I think, that was announced. So basically, like, proposal can be snapshot proposal can basically trigger action in a Nazi safe. So that is very interesting for I think one of the missing piece for these kind of DAO-ish govern snapshot protocol, where they can easily go to something more decentralized, similar to Aave, Compound, and Uniswap.
Yeah, I think that's a real breakthrough, because like the whole reason we don't use currently Snapshot is that the Aave governance system is a binding system. So within the AIP, you have the payload, and basically when the governance say yes to AIP, there's no delay. There's no central authority that will execute the content of the vote, because the vote is the execution and the code that will be implemented inside the protocol. And on Snapshot, it was until now only a declaration of intent. So it's actually game changer to have something that actually enforce something on the blockchain and will enforce the implementation of the content of the vote.
Yeah, that's huge. I didn't know about the safe integration as well. That kind of leads to one of the questions that I was thinking is like, what kind of decisions can we leave to the community, and how much can we trust the community in a system that's like full of risk?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the example I like to give people, the best example I think I can come up with real easily that people can understand is, in at least the American system, you don't have the voters vote on what the Feds set, how the Feds set the interest rates, right? Because even when you think about that, like, well, no, that's like a group of really smart economists that do their thing. Like, you don't just have every voter have a say at what the interest rate should be. And then I think the very same thing applies, is that really theoretically, it's horrible to be like, sure, let's just let the mob decide, what tokens markets we should open, and then like, what is the kind of reserve, what is the collateral factor that each token should have? I think it's really cool for Aave. I've seen those governance proposals that Alex over there has this like analysis. Like, that's cool. Like, that's some advanced processes that, it could be better, but at the same time, like, it's definitely. I think it's a start. I think that we would probably all agree that the existing system isn't nearly where we need to be. And then also, I think it's interesting to kind of weigh like off-chain and on-chain considerations. Like, in reality, that's how the world works. But in actuality, if you're building a DeFi protocol, you probably shouldn't take in consideration of off-chain reasons. And example there would be on Cream, we had a bunch of FTT tokens, and that's not very liquid. So, because I've tried selling, just if you just go to like an AMM, and you just, or even go to an aggregator, you try to sell like 20 ETH worth of FTT tokens, like, you're not gonna, you're gonna see very high slippage. So in that example, you really don't. Though FTT and FTX, they're creditworthy as the entity, and that there's a bunch of debt somewhere. But as long as it's not on-chain and immediately liquidatable, then really we can't trust that as an asset in a DeFi lending protocol.
Yeah, in terms of what we can leave to the governance, my answer would be everything. Like, obviously, it's a step-by-step process, like you just said, and we are getting there, but there's a lot of work to do still. But I really like to remind everyone that if I'm very effective at my job, I will get fired. And that's a good thing. Like, I really want to be as effective as I can to get fired as soon as possible from my job, because the whole point is to build decentralized finance, and like working for a centralized entity, which is not directly the Aave protocol. The Aave protocol is completely decentralized. It's a bunch of smart contracts, but there's still a central entity that pay me every month. And I want to get fired from that, because at some point we will be decentralized in terms of governance and in terms of activity, and the entity that will probably support people building and creating on Aave will be completely from the fee collector of the smart contracts, from a decentralized grant system, from all this kind of initiative, and without the involvement of any centralized entity. And that's the DeFi I want to be part of.
Maki, do you have any thoughts on that before I dig in? So I think, actually, I'll dig in right now, actually. So I think that what you're saying is 100% true, but there's definitely going to be some kind of transition period. It's hard to kind of step into a place where your community is healthy enough that you trust all of their decisions, and that you have enough of the group brain and group thinking that are not with selfish intent, especially when we throw in $1 billion, literally. So, how can we kind of make that transition to trustless from small? And is that part of this, like, what we allow people to do?
I think that there's an interesting middle ground here between, like, centralized decisions versus completely voting entirely 100%. And I point that to Synthetics and their Spartan Council. They have this idea that the Spartan Council is reelected every certain amount of time, and they have these NFTs, and these are the folks that vote. So from that standpoint, it almost feels more like a representative government, which in itself is still decentralized, because a bunch of these folks on the Spartan Council don't have any real direct affiliation with Synthetics itself. It's just token holders who want to do some good. I think actually that is one of the hardest pieces of the puzzle in DeFi right now, is to, you know, be able to meaningfully attract participation from a large chunk of people that are token holders, and also hopefully they provide, you know, right decisions and good feedback. And then, I mean, I don't know if anybody's really, you know, hit this theoretic threshold of like a bad decision got voted in, and then what do you do? So I think that would be an interesting juncture when we see that happen.
Maki, do you have any thoughts?
Governance is so hard. I do think that at some point we're gonna have like the perfect blueprint for it. At the moment, it's not the case. I do think that the recent innovation that we just saw with the snapshot safe is pretty, like it's in a step in a good direction, and I want to make sure that everyone understand that basically there's like tiers where, you know, you can have like the multi-sig veto some decision that were taken by these binding votes, and then there's actually a tier where it's completely decentralized. There's absolutely no multi-sig required that can stop it, basically. To get there, it's probably going to take a little while, I think, you know, 1 year, in my opinion, which is not that far, but we're going to see like more and more like decentralized entities like this one, you know, fully. The problem I have actually is like, how do you kind of make sure there is no big holders pretty much like controlling the whole thing? That is my biggest worries. I don't think we have any way to kind of, or, you know, like potentially dark attack to governance. So I've seen recently, you know, dark governance attacks. So people are basically like buying votes and so on. I am not sure how we can protect against such actions until we have probably identity solved. So I'm not 100% sure when we're gonna get there in a very easy way. I think some of these protocol right now, like the biggest ones, are there, but at the same time, it's still very the power inequalities are very high. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I guess in a few months.
Yeah, I think that kind of brings us back to like the community, that it kind of has the power, and where that power lies in this decision making. So one of the things that Gunnar talked about yesterday is kind of going from like the DAO space and enabling them to use DeFi. And so I see that a lot, especially with like the onsen pools, where communities kind of form, and then they're looking to pair their tokens for liquidity on these protocols. So I think that's going to be one of the things that really drives the support and involvement from these, is that network effect from aligned communities that can use and benefit from the money Legos that are assembled. So what are kind of some of the ways that we can make DeFi easier for communities to harness and utilize, aside from just like a direct like pool? Is there kind of gamifications or ways that we can engage the communities in DeFi aside from just lending?
I think my first question would be like, I will answer the question with another question: is how political we want decentralized governance to be? Because there's a clear part happening right now, like some kind of direction that we see emerging more and more in the ecosystem, what we call local representative or protocol politician. Some very active user in most community. One of the good names I can drop right here is like Money Supply, which is very active in almost all DeFi protocols, and someone very involved, very knowledgeable, and it's always great to hear it and read his thread in MakerDAO or Aave or any DeFi protocol. And those guys are getting specialized, like to be like representative. And with the civil system from Uniswap, you can delegate your vote to this kind of guys, and it's something that you can use on Compound, you can use on Aave, you can probably use as it's very close to the code on Cream as well. And on Aave, we have the proposal and voting power that are segregated, so you can delegate your proposal power to this kind of guys, and they basically build from it. But what we are basically doing is representative democracy, like republics, like what most of us are experiencing as a political system. I'm not sure all of us are very happy with our current political system. Of course, it's liquid democracy on the blockchain, so if you don't like a guy, you can remove in one transaction all the votes you send to them. But do we want 10,000 very active member or 30 super expert and active member? What do we want? And that's a real question, because we are in the moment of time where we define how decentralized governance mainly gonna be.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very good question to ask. I think we often debate that too within the Cream community. I think to maybe so about the actual about the part about kind of making things easier for in DeFi. I actually think that there is a lack of good storytellers in DeFi that can just like very simply say, you know, and sticking with the AMM and lending. Let's say here is like, hey, look, this thing is like, so, okay, so you've got your first, you know, Ethereum or Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin's a bad idea here, given that we're talking about Ethereum ecosystem. So let's say you got your first ETH, and you want to be able to, like, you're showing your kid or something, like, instead of the classic, like, let me walk you to the bank and like get you a bank account here. Look, here's your bank book. Like, you take care of it. Like, kid, take your password, whatever. In this case, you'd be like, look, here's how you sign in, right? And then here you can go pick your bank of choice or protocol of choice, and you can put it in, and like, oh, look, it goes up in numbers, great, and then tomorrow it goes better. Learn to save, son. You know, something like that. I think it needs to be just really basic like that, and it needs to be, you know, good analogies. And not to like, you know, front run Maki or anything, but the one I like the most about AMMs and LP positions, I find that I think AMMs and LPs are like the hardest things to explain in DeFi space. But the part that the thing that I can, the way I can characterize it that most resonates with my normie friends that are not crypto is like, look, like, well, what do you mean? Why should I put in a 50-50 wrapped Bitcoin? Like, what does that do for me? I've heard about this impermanent loss thing, and I heard about, like, you know what? Don't worry about that. If you're trying to construct a long crypto play and you don't quite have a preference Bitcoin and Ethereum, go 50-50. Put that thing in an LP, earn some sushi drops, and that's great. And they're like, well, I don't know what that means. I'm like, that's okay. Imagine if Fidelity was your broker, and that they had a fund that you could put 50-50 ETH and Bitcoin, and then you put the money in, and then every time they trade from NASDAQ pays the pool, you get paid, and then Fidelity pays you equity into their company by you using it. Like that's kind of crazy, but it's like, no, that is exactly what's happening right now. So more kind of like, what is this thing and how do we do this thing? And I think the industry is a bit like confusing for a lot of people. A lot of folks jump into this industry and they think, oh, I have to learn to code Solidity. And it's like, well, you know, I mean, I'm not proud of the fact that I can't code Solidity, but like, I can't. So that's me, and I'm in this industry. And I think we do need right now. I mean, sure, we need builders that actually build the code, but we need a bunch of people who can speak regular plain street language to help people understand what it is that we're doing. And, you know, we need to skip the whole, like, I cut myself in the same problem where I get so excited. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then you could deposit this LP token, and then you could like leverage, and it's a lot cheaper if you do it on a lending protocol than it is on an exchange. And then like, I can't even get to that part you first talked about. So like that second part you're talking about.
Still trying to understand what Bitcoin was.
Yeah, exactly. So for those of us in industry, we need to help speak the regular language so they understand what they're getting into, and two, get more people in to be like, oh, now I get it, and now I need to do like more explain like I'm 5, and I think that'd be interesting. And then thirdly, localize to our regions, because I'm seeing that a lot here in Asia, is that people feel like, look, like my English isn't very good, and I therefore can't use this because I don't read or speak English well, and that's kind of a crappy thing because it is supposed to be about open access. So we need to be open access and be more accessible to people in the way we communicate, the language we use, both like, you know, localization as well as how we characterize things.
Yeah, very well said.
Maybe I can touch on 2 points here, by the way. I
Yeah.
do think that the fact that just Leo highlighted the kind of everyone is using English for all the major protocol is kind of very annoying. I do believe I don't see a lot of localized version. That's why, you know, at Sushi, like one of the interfaces literally translated in 7 language by all community members. Never paid for it. It was like very it made sense, you know, like when we wanted to cater to the Chinese market, the Japanese market, Spanish, French, Brazilians, and so on. It's like very kind of baffling to see how maybe some protocol in your all of the other kind of the rest, right? The 99% of the people that cannot basically like understand all of this necessarily easily, especially the governance aspect. But like Marc said, I think the liquid democracy is like super important because not everyone can just be attentive to everything that is happening. They have like regular lives, they have work to attend, they have family, friends, and so on. It can get very exhausting to put a lot of times in, especially one protocol is something, but imagine doing it for 10 or 5. It is, you cannot keep up. Even if you are full-time in crypto, sometimes you miss out on things that are happening. I really do like, though, these new tools are kind of popping out, and pretty sure some, like you've heard about Vote with Tally, I think, or Tally. I'm not sure the exact name,
Yeah,
but this is like, yeah, Tally is like very interesting in all kind of these this aspect, because we are seeing more and more kind of governance happening in a decentralized manner. We're seeing now tools popping up for them, which was not something that existed 2 years ago, 1 year and a half. I do think we're going to see more and more innovation in this kind of niche, mostly because there's a need now. Before there was not much to govern, I would say. Nowadays, you know, you see treasuries, you see community funds, you see grants project, and so on. It's very interesting in my opinion, and we're going to see more and more involvement from various parties, and that's where I'm most excited about.
One of the good thing about being decentralized, I want to remind everyone listening to us, is that for all 3 protocols that are represented here, you don't really care about the front end, because the really important part is the decentralized smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain. So basically, on the Aave app, it's just one of the many front end you can interact with to basically access the Aave protocol. So you have the Aave app in 10 language right now directly. But if you don't have your language directly, you can just copy paste, fork it, or build your own front end and do it in your own local language and distribute that to your community. And that's it, because you can do it. The contracts are the same for everyone, and there's no limitation at all. And the team, entity, Genesis, whatever you call it, you don't really care about them. You don't need to ask permission, because the whole point is to build permissionless, trustless, decentralized finance services. So if you don't have something that is inside your language that is not accessible to you, feel free to build it, and we will be more than happy to help you into your journey.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really great point about being able to tell the story and doing your own research. And if you're not able to understand what's happening, or it's not in your own personal language, it really is going to be a hindrance to that side of the community. You know, you're going to miss out on a lot of intelligent and important considerations that, you know, are different from your own. And yeah, I think one of the big things that people might not realize is most of DeFi is centered in Asia. You know, I think most of this talk is +8 or near that time. So I think, you know, having that global view is critical
I am kind of curious though, Mark, you make a good point here that, and I try to tell people this too, and then sometimes people don't understand either, they don't follow, but I just tell them like, look, building in Web3 is very different from Web2 in the sense that the back end is just smart contracts. So it's like, okay, so why aren't there why isn't there like a aggregator instead of like a 1inch or matcha? The aggregator basically is just like tabs, right? Like, oh, here you have, move your coins around. Oh, look, here's like a ether scan, and then here's like and then yet all the things you want's there, and then like, oh, I can borrow here, I can trade here. Like, nobody makes a front end like that. Why, or are you aware of one? I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, there's several one basically. So, and that's probably my main vision about the future of DeFi is that
great.
We are spending a lot of time building our own apps, and Cream, your design is so incredible. I'm a big fan, obviously.
Thank you.
I love the inspiration and all the other things, but I do believe that bad or good, I don't know if it's bad or good, but most of the user in 1 or 2 years, they're not going to use the Aave app or the Cream app. They're going to use Zapper, Zerion, Dbank. Dbank is very big in Asia, actually,
yes.
And it's a huge dashboard to access financial service, decentralized financial service. There's a new one I really love. It's TechDAO. That allow you to directly deposit swap asset with Paraswap, stake asset, even if it's not Ethereum asset like Tezos or the other guys, and all of that inside the same website. And I think that's exactly how DeFi gonna look like for 99% of the user in the future. They're gonna find a super hub. I call that a super hub that they love. They want to onboard here. And most of the time, they will do onboarding as well from fiat to crypto and crypto to fiat. And they're just going to use that mainly. And obviously, if you want to dive deeper and interact directly with the smart contract or the original front ends, you can do it. But it's just another option. DeFi is all about freedom. And this idea to us only being financial middleware and some kind of financial back end for many front end, it's already something that happened. Like, for example, in Aave, we have the flash loans. Most of the flash loan, like not most, but a big part of the flash loan volume is not done through Aave. It's done through DeFi Server, which is a third-party app, or it's done through Instadapp, which is a third-party app. Most of the collateral swap, they are done on DeFi Server as well. And there's many things on the like most of the deposits, they come from iEarn vaults, they come from Curve Finance pools, they come from this kind of sources, and a lot of the Aave TVL and the Aave user are not using the Aave frontend. They are using another protocol, they are using another frontend, and it's going to be more and more like that, and that's a good thing. That means we are just a financial middleware. And that's what we want to do, because we want to be neutral and we want to be decentralized as much as possible.
Totally echo with this, and I do think that probably what is going to be happening is probably these protocol are probably going to at some point incentivize these kind of third parties integration, not necessarily integration, but front end, I do think, potentially.
That's the referral program. So 20% of Aave protocol fee goes directly to our integrators.
Exactly. So that's, and not everyone is aware of that, but that's where we're converging, I do think.
I think having those pre-allocated budgets for future development are kind of key towards keeping the engagement long-term and building the community support that have incentives for engagement. One of the things that you mentioned, Marc, about Aave that I'm sure a lot of people have questions about are flash loans. So flash loans are obviously key to a lot of the attacks that have happened recently, and it's kind of a hard thing to predict. No one kind of expects $50 million or $100 million to push impermanent loss to extreme liquidity so that they can make crazy trades. What are some of the good things that we gain from flash loans, and is there any kind of way that we can protect DeFi protocols against malicious flash loans?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that if you look at the data, and that's the great thing about the Ethereum blockchain. It's that it's decentralized, it's public, it's auditable. So you don't have to trust me. You can actually look at what happened on chain and check all the facts by anybody. And basically, when we look at the data, the real question is how much money was saved thanks to a flash loan to a user that may have been in the situation of being liquidated, but thanks to a flash loan, they could rebalance their position and basically self-liquidate themselves, so they don't have to pay the liquidation penalty to a third-party liquidator. That's actually billions of dollars thanks to DeFi server and automation. How many people did a collateral swap? And instead of having a speculative volatile asset as collateral, they hedge their position by doing a collateral swap into a stablecoin as collateral. So no risk of liquidation. That happened also thanks to a flash loan. How much people had less slippage and less spread on decentralized platform and exchanges like SushiSwap, Uniswap, Balance, all the other guys, thanks to the arbitrage done constantly by flash loans and arbitrators that find opportunities and
equilibrate the market.
Yeah, that do the equilibrium on the markets and allow people to buy and sell crypto more easily, more seamlessly. And that's also thanks to flash loan. So obviously there's been quite a few flash loan that was used as malicious purpose, but I want to remind there's nothing you can do with a flash loan that you cannot do if you're rich. And the whole point is like, if that action is possible, I prefer that is accessible to anybody than just the rich, because I mean that's how things should work.
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and say too that some people have said like, oh look, this whole alcohol hack, like these people took the money from Aave, and I'm like, that doesn't make Aave the bad guys. Like that's just not like, it's a tool, right? Like it's a thing. Like I'm not, at nowhere do we blame, oh well, and then Curve, and then it's like, oh, they took the money from our TVL and then stuck it in Aave. Like, okay, well, whatever. Like it's just one all DeFi thing. So I think flash loans do get a bad name, but I'm a firm believer too that flash loans add value to this ecosystem. We've seen it too when with the Keeper network integration, people were able to then democratize liquidation. So it was no longer like, oh well, I just don't have the cash to go ahead and pay back that loan to get the liquidation payments. So I think it is overall an accelerator and is overall like a great equalizer, but it certainly should not be seen as like a tool for the malicious.
You will always only hear about like the sensationalist stories about flash loan. Usually, you never hear about like, oh, someone just saved like tons of million in liquidation because of XYZ. So I do think they are like very famous. I would say like the flash loans are quite famous at the moment, but actually there's quite a lot of benefits too.
Can I just kind of rewind real fast and ask how I could save my liquidation with a flash loan if I was at risk of being liquidated? What would kind of be the steps that I'd take?
So I think the easy way is to do that on autopilot, and I shield them. Obviously, they don't have a token. They are not open to trading or this kind of thing. So I have no financial compensation to say that. It's just I love what they build. DeFiServer.com. It's a small team. They build like incredible products, and they are a tool to manage your position on DeFi. And they not only integrate Aave, but they also have MakerDAO, Compound, maybe one day and soon Cream. I don't know, it's that part of the integration, but that should be. And basically, they have this tool that is called automation. So you give to a third party a smart contract that is their technology the ability to act on your loans. And when you are close to what we call the L factor, so the collateralization of your loan, you close to the liquidation threshold, they will basically pay back on your behalf. Thanks to a flash loan, they will take a small part of your collateral in order to pay back a small part of your debt, but you are back in the safe zone of your collateralization. And it's a great thing because liquidation by a third party is really important. That's the cornerstone of DeFi safety. If we don't have third-party liquidators, we have no protection against what we call bad debt, so under-collateralized loans. And the whole system is unsafe without the ability to liquidate. But you can do a liquidation yourself. So you can self-liquidate, and with this system, you do that on autopilot. So you will lose a small fraction of your collateral that will pay your debt, and you will go back in the safe zone. If the price keeps dropping, they will do that a second time, a third time, a fourth time. But at least you don't get the liquidation penalty, and that goes in a range in Aave from 5 to 15%. Depending of the collaterals. So that can be much a sharper price to pay to have a third-party liquidation instead of the self-liquidation, because the fee of a flash loan is 9 BPS. And if I'm not wrong, the DeFi server fee is 25 BPS. So I'd rather pay 37 or 35 0.35% to do the flash loan, then pay 5% in the best case scenario, or 50% of my collateral in the worst case scenario of a liquidation. So, and there's nothing to do, no code. You click on a few buttons in their UI is great, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's critical to realize that the flash loan is coming from your own kind of liquidity that you're paying back. So it's not like some hidden tool or something like that. It's actually you being able to utilize your own capital efficiently. So what about some of the other things? What about Tornado Cash? Do we have the same opinion about Tornado Cash and money mixers as we do for flash loans?
I mean, I'm all in for freedom. So you should have your right, like privacy is a right. Like one of the speakers today wants to have his privacy, is not activating his camera, and I completely respect that, and I think it's completely normal, and that should be a right, and we should defend that right as much as we can. And I think it's the same thing with money. So if you don't want people to do a chain analysis or on your coins, if you want to give a fresh start to your funds thanks to mixing that will go swap your ETH to another forms of ETH and withdraw that to a fresh address, that should be a right, and we should all defend that possibility. Tornado Cash is an option. I just followed that yesterday. Aztec launched ZK Money, which is also very interesting, and I really much encourage this kind of initiative in our ecosystem.
Maki, Leo, do you guys have any thoughts? Thank you for that perspective, Marc.
Yeah, very big fan of Tornado Cash. I do think that basically for all of the, I guess, quote unquote bad name it can get by funding, hacker wallets first and foremost. I do think that I'm a daily user of Tornado Cash. I use it for when I get my payroll and so on. I think it's very important, mostly because otherwise you get exposed to a lot of problems. Just giving you a problem that you can run into if you do like a peer-to-peer transaction with someone in real life, and they know your address and so on, and they're able to track your holding, and then you can be in a very bad position if you have like meaningful holdings on this address. So by leveraging Tornado, or sending the funds to a centralized entity and then depositing in this new wallet and so on, you're elevating this risk, right? But why do it with a centralized exchange if you can do it in a decentralized way? I think that is way more aligned with my values, with what we're fighting for here, and basically the ethos of this blockchain. I do think it's a matter of time before we see like even more kind of built-in quote-unquote mixer in AMMs and so on. But until then, it's just you can use it, you can not use it. It's up to you. It depends what are kind of your it is still a bit prohibitive, I would say, since you can only do like various amounts with specific assets. But at some point, it's going to be even more flexible, and I think it's just going to be everyone is going to be using Tornado and so on, or like a privacy solution, like Marc said, zk.money. Like this has been in the work for 2 years, I think, or 3, if I'm not wrong. It is fantastic to see like teams shipping and finally kind of see all this innovation popping up. We've been waiting like for so long, and here we're like at the finish line. We're seeing new innovation daily, weekly. It's just amazing to be in this space right now. It's like literally the golden era for DeFi, in my opinion, and we're just getting started. Can you believe it? I mean, I find it amazing.
For sure. I think I definitely agree with the both these guys as well, in that privacy is a fundamental right, and that despite a tool being used for malicious means doesn't mean that it itself is bad. I do believe that privacy is important. It's actually going to be one of the biggest battles, I think, in DeFi as we continue to think about that, and also I think it's interesting to think about how do we balance, if there is a good place to balance between government requests and needs and compliance versus that of like the privacy first kind of views that we have now. And as crypto becomes more and more mainstream, that's going to be more and more of a challenge. And I think another question that I constantly think about actually is, and this applies to all of us here on this panel, is at what point are we going to be accused of funding activities that just aren't friendly to certain state actors that we're in the jurisdictions of? And at what point are we going to be asked like, hey, look, you need to stop doing that? It's like, well, it's not me, it's the thing, the machine goes. And so obviously the privacy thing cuts both ways, and it's a very interesting topic, and I'm really curious how this is going to play out. And I think that there's a place here where hopefully everybody can maintain free speech despite the transparency and the blockchain and all that. And I think the only way to do it is with privacy preserving tools like Tornado Cash. So I think we should all fight for protocols like that to exist as much as possible for the benefit of our own selves.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for that perspective. That's something that a lot of people might not consider when they're thinking of these tools. So I think it's really good to hear that kind of unanimously across the board. So one of the other kind of things that I've noticed is we're all very much on Ethereum mainnet. Is there resilience to going towards a layer 2? Is it figuring out which layer 2 to go to, or is that part of the education barrier?
Maki, you want to start? You are like the pioneer in that space.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So basically, like for Sushi, we have like this very interesting approach where we don't want to have any sort of purity test going on by us, by the dev, or by the team, by the contributors, and so on. We want to make sure that everyone that wants to swap can do so in pretty much every single venue of their choice. I do believe personally that where it's very important to consider where can you see at the moment Sushi incentives. You can only see them on Ethereum. Why is so? It's because right now everything is happening there. We do think that potentially in the future we're going to see maybe some Sushi incentives on other chains. That's maybe possible, but the truth is, why would you want to pretty much split liquidity on other chain for a certain type of asset? It doesn't make sense. If the assets are not, I would say, on Ethereum, then yeah, that could potentially make sense, because like I always said, like Sushi incentives are mostly a way to bridge communities and to make sure that people have skin in the game with us and can participate in the community and so on by doing so. And this is very important because we have like a limited amount of Sushi. Like there's only going to be incentive for 3 years. This is the distribution period. We're going to try and make sure that is the most kind of diversified as much as we can. If it's not possible this way, it's probably we're gonna have to see like other kind of way to influence the governance, not just with the token possibly. But anyway, on the layer 2 aspect, I do think similar to what we saw with ZK money, it took like a few years to get to the finish line. Optimism is coming to pretty much like the last line. Apparently this month we're supposed to see a launch. I'm quite excited to see these layer 2 popping up. Personally, I do think that ZK rollups are where we want to see the ecosystem go. I think they are the most, on the technical perspective and so on, the most interesting ones. But if they're not ready in time, I do feel that everyone is going to probably go with the most secure and readily available solution that's going to hit the ecosystem. So in this case, Optimism seems geared to make a splash very soon. For Sushi, we are excited to, like I said, be everywhere that we need to be. And yeah, that's kind of my perspective. But I do think that ZK rollups or another chain, possibly layer 1 at some point, could be a solution. But everything is happening on Ethereum. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. But for people without maybe a lot of capital, some alternatives make sense. Until we have the proper layer 2 in place, and they're not just for a few subset of use case, but the whole kind of ecosystem.
I think for Cream anyway, the way we're looking at this is it's not really specific to layer 2 itself. It's just a scaling solution across layer 1 with bridges, EVM compatible layer 1s with bridges, as well as layer 2s. Those are all kind of considered the same in my opinion. So we're also on the path of being where users are and where assets are and where transactions are. So the path we're doing is actually just landing where the users and assets and transactions are, and then working on right now a way for users to do cross-chain lending. So what that would happen then is the capital efficiency also remains. So whether you believe that your home is in Ethereum or your home's in BSC or Phantom, you should be able to deposit one place and then borrow against that in the same place or elsewhere.
Well, great. Thank you so much, guys. Marc, you're muted right now. Let's just wrap up closing thoughts, and then we will turn the floor over. So,
So just to finish on that point, right now, as we are speaking, the gas price on Ethereum layer 1 is more than 200 GY, and fuck that. Like, really fuck that. Because at the end of the day, we are building decentralized finance for everyone. And if you have a less than 5-figure portfolio, Ethereum is not for you right now. And fuck that, because that's not what we want. That's not what we spend our energy on. And that's a shame. And that should change as soon as possible. And there's no other way to say it. Because if we don't manage to bring scalability and bring back DeFi to 2-figure portfolio to people in the part of the world where a 2-figure portfolio is a lot of money, it's like their savings, and they can have a decentralized saving accounts, we just failed. And everything we do is just a circle jerk of stupid rich boys that play together with financial tools. So that's probably one of the most crucial things we want to do together, and the most important things we should focus on right now. And there's progress that already made. Like the trailblazer on that was on the 15th of January Synthetics. They did their minting a module directly on Optimism. That's already 2 months ago. You have you guys at Cream working with Phantom, if I'm not wrong on this. You guys, Sushi Swap, real pioneer. You deploy in 5 different blockchains, so that's really impressive. Obviously, Aave is working on their own stuff, and you will see that in the next few weeks, not in the next few months, not in the like next quarter or this kind of things, in the next few weeks, and I want to say in the next few days. So, frankly, at the end of the day, and that will be my closing thought for this, the end user doesn't care. The end user want to have something they can use. And right now, the only thing they can use is centralized. And you know what I'm talking about. We need to bring a decentralized alternative to the end user. And we need to bring that fast. That's the main focus, and it's happening.
Great. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And thank you so much for your perspective. I'm sure everyone, I know I certainly appreciated it. And thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.